Before I begin, I invite you to check out the Condor website. They sell everything for the outdoor enthusiasts, like machetes, survival tools, and throwing knives. One of the popular throwing knives on the Condor website is the Condor Dismissal. I know a lot of people that throw these, but you might not know that they also sell Senban Shuriken. And by the way, these two were designed by Joe Flowers, and if you're interested in learning a little bit about him, you could find a little biography of him on the website. The other website you should check out is bladeplay.com. If you're looking for an inexpensive throwing knife, like anything, I don't know, blade related, you can find them at Blade Play. These throwing cards you can find there, as well as there's a variety of different throwing cards. I just chose these ones. Another thing you can find are throwing knives. This is the Colt throwing knife, also sent to me by Blade Play. And just so you know, in my next video, I'll be doing a review of these two knives, the Colt knife and the Condor Dismissal. The first thing I need to mention about these two things is that they came sharp. Now, the Condor Senban Shuriken wasn't necessarily very sharp. It's more that the point was sharp. For example, when I ran it across like a tomato, once it hit that point, it just dug in. For the cards though, all the edges were sharp. To this point where I was afraid to throw them because I was afraid I'd grab it and I would cut myself like a paper cut. What I did for my own safety is I made sure to dual the edges. First, I just placed them in a vise. Then you could take a file and just slowly drag the file across the edge with even pressure in one direction. And you just keep doing that over and over until you see this flat edge emerge. You want to do it until it's blunt enough that running your finger across the top won't cut you. Now, using a file is a bit time consuming. What I used to save me time was my Dremel tool. And the Dremel tool has this spinning end to it. And I used a bit meant for sharpening, but in this case, I didn't sharpen, I just blunted it. And all I did was just run that bit down the edge of the card, and it works so much faster than filing. When I went to duel the Senban Shuriken, I just ran that bit down the edge, but I made sure at the very point to round it out a bit. So I wanted that point to not be so pointy. And now, I mean, these are really comfortable to hold. I could grab it hard without worrying about cutting myself. It's important to note that with the Dremel tool, since it's spinning around, make sure if you have long hair to keep it up and out of the way. And also, with the Dremel, as well as the file, make sure you're wearing eye protection because you don't want any metal shavings going into your eye. In terms of price, the Senban Shuriken costs double what the playing cards cost, but I think that's reflected in its durability. The Senban Shuriken, even though I saw it clearly hit that metal rod above my target several times, it shows no damage, no burrs. They look pretty much the same as when I had first thrown them, whereas the throwing cards, you see a lot of little burrs that have already formed and little pieces of metal that have been knocked off. In fact, I had to take my file out a couple times to just grind down some burrs, because if you throw and there's a little piece of metal sticking out, you are likely to cut yourself. This doesn't really bother me, but if you notice the playing cards, the face is kind of scratched up a little bit. After several 100 throws, I don't know how many times I've thrown these, I don't expect them to be in pristine shape, but I would say durability wise, the Condor Senban Shuriken wins over the throwing cards. Now, in terms of looks, you'll see in the video, I feel that the throwing cards are flashy, they look cooler, whereas the Senban Shuriken, they have this matte finish. They're very stealthy compared to these. I mean, if you want a flashy thrower, go with the cards. Not to mention, if you do miss the target, these were so hard to find, whereas the throwing cards were easy. And let me explain. For example, when I threw like this and I missed the target, because the Senban Shuriken is a square, it rolls like a wheel. And in fact, it would roll and then bounce up. And it hit the fence. That's like 11-meter throw. If you're on a battlefield, you can see why the Senban Shuriken would be very awesome, because it just would, if you miss your target, it would just roll and probably hit someone else. But if you have something behind your target, like people playing, these will just keep on going. Something you have to worry about. So make sure nothing is behind your target when you are throwing. There are two ways to hold onto your Senban Shuriken. You can either do this pinch grip, Or you can curve your index finger over the end and throw like that. I prefer the pinch grip because that's how I'm used to throwing knives, and you get a lot more power out of this, where it takes a lot more practice to get this motion down. So my first throws were a pinch grip overhead throw, and I first did 4 meters. And after 4 meters, that's when it got harder to hit the target. It just got progressively difficult. I did 7 meters. All the way up to 8. And honestly, I could probably have gone back to even farther. I just kept missing the target, and I didn't want to keep... I was doing miles back and forth, and plus losing the shuriken. I decided to experiment with different throws, different angles, and I threw, horizontally and vertically. And it's amazing the versatility of the shuriken because anything's possible. Because you have so many points, I mean, you don't have to worry about your distance. You'll hit anything. So after that, I decided, well, can I throw 2 at a time, like Gambit? The 2 at a time shuriken worked really well. I was able to stick into the target almost every time. You could also do the same as throwing cards, but it was a little less successful. Trying 3 cards with 3 shuriken at a time was a no-go. That just didn't work. So at the very end of my practice, I decided to try a movement drill where I just circled the target and just threw in any direction. I tried to switch it up from horizontal throws to vertical throws, just anything, anything that came naturally. Actually, I know one time I no-spin through the card, which was funny. So overall, I highly recommend these. Lots of fun. Stay tuned for my review on the Condor dismissal as well as the Colt throwing knives. Bye!